That afternoon, the classroom was a bit noisy. The strategic management lecture had just ended. Students were starting to pack up. Some were still busy chatting, others hurried out. But not Yin and Yuju, who remained seated in the back row, enjoying their free time before the next class. "He's so good looking, like a model," Yuju murmured while nudging Yin's arm. Yin, who was winding up her laptop charger, turned with a raised brow. "Who?" Yuju gave a small nod toward the front row. "That guy, Jungkook." Yin blinked. Her heart skipped a beat. Jungkook, with his trademark stoic expression, was casually standing with two of his friends, Jaehyun and Yoonwoo, eyes focused on his phone screen. "Oh, him," Yin replied flatly, trying not to show any reaction. Yuju pouted. "You're not interested? I've never seen you have a crush on anyone, you know." Yin smiled faintly and looked down, pretending to organize her books. "He's too cold. Seems like he doesn't like socializing, especially with girls." "That's what makes him interesting. The more mysterious, the more intriguing," Yuju said with a soft laugh. Yin didn't respond, but her thoughts were running wild. Secretly, she had been watching Jungkook for a while, not because of his looks, but because of his silence, his focus, and how he always turned down female attention, firmly but politely. There was something about him that, for some reason, made Yin want to know more. But those feelings were hers alone, and they would stay that way. "You really don't like him?" Yuju asked again, this time more seriously. Yin quickly looked at her friend and smiled widely. "Yuju, I like funny guys. Jungkook, he barely even smiles." Yuju burst into laughter, covering her mouth. "Fair enough, but who knows, maybe if you got to know him better, he's not as bad as you think. You really don't want to get close to him?" Yin laughed along, though something inside her stung a little. Of course she did. She was the one who had been silently watching from afar all this time, always pretending not to care, even when Jungkook stood only 2 meters away. Yin kept it all to herself because she knew he was someone far too difficult to reach. The night had grown late. The clock on the wall showed 11:30 p.m. Yin's room was dimly lit, accompanied by soft, mellow music playing from her phone. On her bed, Yin sat curled up, hugging her knees, her gaze blank as she stared at her idle laptop screen. Her thoughts kept drifting back to her conversation with Yuju earlier that day. "Do you really not like him?" Yuju's question echoed in her head. How easily she had laughed it off, as if there was nothing to hide. But now, in the quiet of the night, her true feelings resurfaced, a restlessness she couldn't ignore. "Just a few more months, until graduation," she whispered. 4 years felt both long and fleeting, and all that time, she had kept everything to herself. She knew that after graduation, things would change. Everyone would go off chasing their own dreams. There might never be another moment like now, sharing the same classroom, seeing Jungkook sit just 2 rows ahead, hearing him answer the professor's questions in that calm voice. If not now, then when? But she also knew, confessing her feelings just like that, without reason, without connection, especially to someone like Jungkook, might come off as strange, too sudden. It could push him away, or worse, make him avoid her. Suddenly, an idea popped into her mind. What if I start being a little warmer toward him? Not too much, just enough to show that I'm here. She knew Jungkook wasn't the type to open up easily, but who knows? If she was patient enough, sincere enough, maybe she could find a small opening in his cold wall. Maybe Jungkook would start to notice her, the way she had always noticed him. Yin took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. "I'll try, just little by little," and deep down in her heart she hoped that maybe, just maybe, Jungkook would finally see her. That morning, the classroom was more crowded than usual. Professor Lee entered with an enthusiastic expression and without any small talk, immediately wrote something on the board. Pair assignment, company strategy analysis. The class instantly buzzed with noise. Everyone started glancing around, looking for someone to team up with. Yin, who sat in the corner, kept her head down and pretended to be writing. Honestly, she had no idea who to partner with. Yuju wasn't even there today because she was sick. "I'll be the one assigning your partners," the professor continued with a smile. "So you won't just rely on your usual cliques." "Okay, worse than I thought," Yin muttered internally. One by one, names were called. Everyone began accepting their fate, until finally, Jeon Jungkook and Park Yin. Yin, who had been fiddling with the tip of her pen, froze. Her eyes moved to the board, then slowly to Jungkook on the other side of the room. Jungkook glanced back, his expression as unreadable as ever, but he didn't seem to mind, just a small nod. Yin's heart started to race. Is this for real? I'm in a group with him? After class ended, students immediately sought out their partners to start discussing the task. Yin slowly walked over to Jungkook's seat, where he was still packing up his laptop. Hi, Yin said quietly, trying to hide her nerves. So, we're partners now, huh? Jungkook looked up and nodded. Yeah. Yin sat down in the seat next to him. Do you want to start now or should we schedule something later? Now's fine, if you're not in a rush. Yin paused. She hadn't expected Jungkook to be so open. Okay, want to find a place? Let's go to the library. They walked together to the library. Not much was said on the way, but strangely, Yin felt comfortable. This wasn't something she had planned, but maybe that was a good thing. It felt natural. That afternoon, the library was calm. Only the soft rustle of paper and the light tapping of keyboards filled the air. Yin and Jungkook sat in a corner near the window, a favorite spot for students who needed to concentrate. Jungkook sat upright, eyes glued to a PDF document on his laptop. Occasionally, he would highlight important points with his digital marker. Yin, on the other hand, tried to look casual while taking notes, but her mind was busy thinking of ways to keep this from being just another group project. She glanced at Jungkook. If we just stay quiet, how am I supposed to get closer to him? Where do I even begin? She thought to herself. Taking a bold step, Yin finally spoke, her voice soft but clear enough to hear. Are you always like this? So serious when you work? Jungkook turned slightly. I mean, you're really focused. Like, completely unbothered. He shrugged lightly. You kind of have to be, otherwise, it's easy to mess up. Yin nodded, then chuckled softly. True, I've never worked in a group with you before. I thought you'd be hard to collaborate with. Jungkook tilted his head slightly, his expression calm. Why would you think that? Yin shrugged. You're not really close to anyone, especially not girls. This time, Jungkook looked at her a little longer. His gaze wasn't sharp, just observant. I just don't talk much, he finally said. Doesn't mean I can't work with people. Yin smiled. So I misjudged you, huh? A little, Jungkook replied, his tone a little lighter than before. Yin bit her lower lip, holding back a smile. Okay, this is going way better than I thought, she thought to herself, quietly happy. Jungkook went back to his laptop, but a few seconds later, he asked without looking at her, why did you choose this major? Yin was surprised he asked something personal. She answered quickly. At first, it was my parents' idea, but over time, I started to like it. Turns out business is kind of fun. Jungkook nodded slightly. I just followed my brother's lead at first, but the more I studied, the more it felt right for me. Yin looked at him silently. This was the first time she'd heard anything personal from Jungkook. Usually, he was so quiet, distant, and hard to approach. But here at this table, something felt different. It's kind of funny, Yin finally said. This is the first time I've had a real conversation with you. And we've been classmates for years. Jungkook looked at her. His eyes met hers. Maybe this is the first time we've been given the chance. Yin held her breath. The sentence was simple, but it was enough to make her heart beat faster. She hoped this was the beginning of something more. Ever since they started working on their assignment together, Yin had been spending more and more time sharing a table with Jungkook in the corner of the library. At first, it was purely academic, just two classmates trying to finish a group project. But slowly, Yin began opening up more topics of conversation, and surprisingly, Jungkook never once shut her down. That didn't mean Jungkook suddenly became warm or overly friendly. He was still Jeon Jungkook, quiet, calm, speaking only when necessary, and keeping his distance from everyone. But with Yin, he was a little different. Not warm, not friendly, but at least he wasn't cold. He didn't walk away, didn't respond curtly, and even listened patiently when Yin started talking about things that had nothing to do with their assignment. And that was enough to convince Yin, slowly but surely, she was knocking on a door that had never been open for anyone else. That day, they met again at the library. As she opened her laptop, Yin glanced at Jungkook with a light tone. Are you the type who eats breakfast or skips it? Jungkook, who was flipping through his notes, looked up briefly. I eat breakfast. Yin smiled. Wow, I thought you were the type who rushed straight to class without eating. If I haven't eaten, my brain doesn't work, he replied shortly, but not coldly. Yin let out a small laugh. So, what did you have this morning? As usual, she was trying to spark a conversation, just like her plan from the start, to get closer to him, step by step. Toast and eggs, Jungkook answered simply. Wow, that's actually healthy. Did you make it yourself? Jungkook nodded. Don't like greasy food in the morning, so I usually cook my own meals. You can cook. Yin's eyes widened in curiosity. Or is it just eggs? Jungkook gave a faint smile, almost invisible. A little bit. I'm not a chef or anything, but enough to survive. I live alone in an apartment. Whoa, I didn't know that. I thought you were the spoiled type who still lives with his parents, Yin said, impressed. Jungkook raised an eyebrow. Why would you think that? Yin nodded. I don't know. You just look so well groomed. At that, Jungkook let out a quiet chuckle, causing Yin to blink in disbelief. It was the first time she'd heard that sound from him. So you think guys who live alone can't look well groomed? Yin's cheeks turned pink. Well, not necessarily. I don't have brothers, but most of my male cousins are super spoiled. Everything is done for them. I don't think they'd survive a week living alone. Jungkook looked at Yin a few seconds longer than usual. There was something about the way she told stories, straightforward, honest, but also a little silly, that, for some reason, caught his attention. Normally, when someone talked too much, he'd get irritated easily, but not with Yin. She made everything feel lighter. You're different, Jungkook said suddenly, making Yin, who was sipping her drink, choke a little. Huh? Yin quickly turned to him, eyes wide. What? Jungkook shifted his gaze back to his laptop screen, as if regretting his honest words. But his voice remained calm. Your way of talking, it's interesting, not like most people. Yin kept looking at him, half in disbelief. Seriously? You're not teasing me, right? Jungkook gave a faint smile and shook his head. I'm not used to long conversations, but you make me want to listen. Those words made Yin's heart feel warm and race a little. She looked away for a moment, trying to hide the flush rising to her cheeks. Well, maybe it's because I talk to the wall in my bedroom too often. So when someone actually listens, I get carried away, she said with a soft laugh. Jungkook chuckled too, and this time more clearly. A laugh he rarely showed to anyone, except maybe his family. You're funny, he said softly. Yin froze, not because she didn't know what to say, but because she truly didn't expect it. Jungkook, the quiet, distant guy who always seemed untouchable, just called her funny. I think we'll finish this project quickly, Jungkook said again, this time looking straight into Yin's eyes. But I don't think I'd mind if it took a little longer. Yin held his gaze, and for the first time, she felt the wall slightly crack. Not completely open, but enough to be a beginning, and that was already more than enough. That night, sitting on her bed and hugging a pillow, Yin couldn't stop smiling ever since she got home from the library earlier. She kept replaying the moment when Jungkook laughed, a small laugh, but real. Then the way he said her stories was interesting, and the part that made her heart race the most, when he said he wouldn't mind if their project took a little longer. Oh my god, Yin mumbled, hiding her face in the pillow. How can he be that charming when he says something like that? She knew, of course, that Jungkook wasn't completely open yet. He still kept his distance. Even when they sat side by side, his posture remained upright, his movements cautious, and his gaze calculated. But something had changed, something small, yet noticeable. He used to not even glance her way when spoken to. Now, he listened. He asked questions back. He laughed. He's still got his walls up, Yin whispered, staring at the ceiling. But now I know, behind that wall, there's space for me. Yin curled under the blanket, hugging her pillow as if holding onto the small feeling growing slowly in her heart. Slowly is fine, she whispered. What matters is, he's starting to see me. The next morning, the weather was quite pleasant. A cloudless blue sky stretched above, and a cool breeze gently rustled the leaves of the trees around the campus courtyard. Yin walked leisurely toward the faculty building, still feeling lighthearted after the night before. Her face was bright, and even her steps felt lighter. But her pace slowed instantly when her eyes caught a scene that made her smile slowly fade. Near the outdoor cafeteria stood two people she knew all too well, Yuju and Jungkook. They were standing rather close. Yuju let out a small laugh while lightly tapping Jungkook's arm, a gesture far too familiar, and what made Yin's heart sink. Jungkook didn't pull away. He just glanced at Yuju briefly and replied with a smile. Yes. Jungkook smiled at Yuju. Jungkook also listened. He let Yuju laugh and talk freely. Yin stopped walking. She stood behind a pillar in the corridor, trying to steady her breath. How did they get that close? She wondered. A few seconds later, Jungkook appeared to excuse himself and walked away, while Yuju started heading toward class. Yin quickly turned around before Yuju could see her. She walked off briskly. Maybe it was just a normal conversation. She tried to reassure herself. But why did her chest feel so heavy? Why did the image of Yuju's smile and Jungkook's casual demeanor with her linger so painfully in her mind? For the first time since this all began, Yin felt afraid. Afraid that everything she had been building slowly could collapse in an instant because of someone she never even saw coming. The days that followed passed slowly and heavily for Yin. Every time she saw Jungkook and Yuju on campus, at the cafeteria, in the hallways, or in the garden, they were always together, not just standing near each other, but genuinely looking close. Yuju laughed freely, and Jungkook laughed with her, something Yin had rarely seen from him. And that started to haunt her mind. Now, every time Yin and Jungkook met to work on their assignment, the atmosphere felt a little different. Not that Jungkook had become cold or was blatantly distant. No, he still responded, still nodded, and still listened when Yin spoke. But something had shifted. He looked down at his laptop more often, rarely meeting her eyes. He no longer asked the little questions he used to. No more light conversations about breakfast or how her day was going. Everything felt more formal, more focused on the task. And that alone was enough to make Yin uneasy. Today, they were back at their usual corner in the library. Laptops open, their project still halfway done. Yin tried to break the silence. "We just need to go over the competitive strategy, right?" she asked softly. Jungkook nodded quickly. "Yeah, I've already outlined the key points. You can add the marketing section later." His voice was still calm, not harsh. But he returned to his screen too quickly, too eager to close the conversation. Yin forced a smile, though her heart felt heavy. "I saw you at the cafeteria yesterday, with Yuju." Jungkook glanced at her briefly. "Yeah," he replied shortly, then added, "She wanted to talk about something." Yin frowned slightly. It seemed Jungkook didn't want to share the details with her. "Oh." She looked down at the table. "You two looked like you got along well." Jungkook didn't respond right away, but this time, he turned to her for a moment longer, his tone softer. "Yeah, we had something to talk about." Yin nodded, trying to hide the tightness in her chest. She knew Jungkook didn't mean to hurt her, but still, that subtle shift was enough to make her question everything. Jungkook hadn't completely withdrawn, but Yin could feel it, as if the door that had once slightly opened was now slowly closing again, quietly. And there she stood, in front of that door, unsure whether to knock again or walk away. That night, Yin sat at the edge of her bed, staring blankly at her phone screen. Her fingers scrolled through old messages, past group chat discussions with Jungkook. Now, there were no more notifications from him, no more reasons for Jungkook to reach out, because their group assignment was finished. Since then, they no longer had a reason to meet regularly, and from that moment on, Yin began to feel the loss. Of course, they still saw each other on campus, but it was reduced to polite greetings in passing, and what she saw most often now was Jungkook with Yuju. Sometimes they sat in the campus garden, in the cafeteria, or even occasionally in the corridor near the lab. They always looked comfortable together, laughing, talking so casually. And Jungkook, he looked different when he was with Yuju, more relaxed, more open. Every time Yin saw it, her heart felt like it was being squeezed. "I think this is enough," she whispered. She bit her lower lip hard, trying to hold back the emotions swelling in her chest. Enough. She didn't want to keep hoping, didn't want to be the third wheel in someone else's connection, especially if that someone was Yuju, her own friend. Stepping back, that was the best choice, even if her heart screamed, even if every time she saw Jungkook from afar, some part of her still whispered, "Why not me?" But Yin lowered her head deeply, hugging her knees, trying to steady her breathing that was starting to hitch. Her tears fell silently. The love she had nurtured in silence, she had to let go, not because she didn't love Jungkook, but maybe that love was never meant to be returned. "It's okay," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "I'm strong, I can forget him." That afternoon, the campus was slightly crowded. Students bustled past on their way to class. Yin walked quickly, head down, hugging her books to her chest. Her schedule was packed that day, and her mind was still heavy with unresolved feelings. She took the stairs toward the faculty building, where the floor slopped slightly and was slick with last night's rain. And that's when it all happened, so fast. Her foot slipped, and her body flung backward, but she never hit the ground. Strong arms caught her, pulling her into a tight, fast, and shockingly close embrace. "Yin." The voice was startled, low, but unmistakable. "Jungkook." Yin's body collided with Jungkook's chest in a rush of breath. Her hands instinctively grabbed his jacket, while he held her firmly, one hand on her back, the other at her waist. Time seemed to freeze. There were no other sounds but the thudding of their hearts. Their breaths mingled. Their faces were inches apart. Yin could see the look in Jungkook's eyes, and Jungkook could feel the trembling in Yin's body. Neither spoke. They were caught in that silent moment until Yin realized their position. Her body was too close, her heartbeat is too fast, and Jungkook's gaze, far too deep. With a gentle push, she pulled away from him, her cheeks burning. "Sorry," she whispered, barely audible. She lowered her head, unable to meet his eyes, and, "Thank you for catching me." Her hands trembled as she clutched her books again, trying to calm her pounding heart, and without waiting for a response, Yin turned around and walked away, almost like she was running. Jungkook stood still, watching Yin's back as she walked away. His body hadn't fully relaxed. That touch wasn't something he could brush off easily, not because of the embrace, but because of how Yin reacted. Too fast, too distant, and in that moment, Jungkook realized something. Yin was pulling away from him. He had felt it for the past few days, but he thought it was just in his head. Now, after seeing the way she rushed to leave, he knew that girl was really stepping away. "Yin, wait up." Her steps reflexively slowed, her breath hitched. She knew that voice, and she knew if she stopped, everything might change. But if she kept walking, would she seem like someone suddenly struck deaf? Slowly, Yin turned around. Jungkook stood a few meters behind, slightly out of breath, as if he had been chasing after her since the stairs. "I just want to talk for a moment before we go into class," Jungkook said, his voice careful, almost uncertain. Yin looked at him for a second, then lowered her gaze. She bit her bottom lip gently. "Sorry, Jungkook. I don't think now is the right time," she said softly, though her tone was firm. "I need to get to class. There's something I need to prepare." It was a lie, but she didn't have the strength to talk to him right now. Not when her heart was still racing. Not when she was too fragile to pretend everything was fine. Jungkook fell silent for a moment. He looked like he wanted to insist, but stopped himself. He gave a slow nod. "Okay, maybe later then." Yin replied with a small nod before walking again. Jungkook followed, now walking beside her. They moved in sync toward the classroom, but the atmosphere was far from what it used to be. There were no casual conversations like before, no light laughter between sentences, just synchronized footsteps, but hearts that felt miles apart. Awkward, quiet, cold. From time to time, Jungkook glanced sideways at Yin, but she never once turned to him. Her eyes were locked forward, her lips sealed. On the outside, Yin looked calm, but inside, she was breaking. Once, a meter between them felt like nothing, but today, even while walking side by side, it felt like a towering wall stood between them. And Jungkook was finally certain something was wrong, and he didn't know how to fix it. As soon as Yin and Jungkook stepped into the classroom, Yin immediately spotted Yuju sitting near the window. She quickly made her way over and sat beside her best friend, avoiding looking anywhere else. Meanwhile, Jungkook joined his male friends, Jaehyun and Yoonwoo, at a row of seats toward the back. There were no greetings, no glances exchanged, as if they hadn't just walked in together. Yuju leaned slightly toward Yin with a teasing smile. "You guys came in together, huh?" she whispered quickly. Yin hurriedly shook her head, feeling uneasy. "It was a coincidence. We just ran into each other in the hallway," she answered quickly, half whispering, half hoping Yuju wouldn't press further. But Yuju only grinned wider. "Well, you guys were in the same group last week. It makes sense you're getting closer, right?" Yin took a short breath, then shook her head again, more firmly this time. "No, Yuju, there's nothing going on, so you don't have to worry." Yuju furrowed her brows. "Worry? Why would I be worried?" The question made Yin fall silent. She looked down, feeling guilty for her own words. Yuju grew more curious. "Yin, why would you say that? Do you think I'd get jealous?" she whispered more seriously. "Wait, do you think I like Jungkook?" Yin didn't answer right away. She still looked down. "No, I just don't want you to get the wrong idea." Yuju grew even more suspicious. "But it sounds like you're the one who's misunderstood something." Yin tried to laugh, but it clearly sounded forced. "No, seriously, there's nothing going on between me and Jungkook." Yuju stared at her for a long moment, then her eyes widened slightly. "Wait a second, don't tell me," she muttered, leaning closer. "Yin, you like Jungkook, don't you?" Yin's face instantly flushed. "No," she denied quickly. But Yuju didn't back off. "Come on, just be honest. You like him, right?" Yin remained silent. Not a single word came out of her mouth, but her averted gaze, the flush in her cheeks, and the way she clutched her book in her lap, gave her away completely. Yuju let out a soft breath, her voice gentler now. "No wonder you've been avoiding Jungkook lately. I thought it was just because we've been buried in assignments. But it turns out you misunderstood something." Yin frowned. "Says who?" Yuju smirked mischievously. Jungkook, actually, he's not entirely sure you're avoiding him, but he did say you've been acting different around him. Yin's frown deepened. You guys talked about me behind my back? Yuju now held back a laugh. Seems like you've really misunderstood something, but maybe I shouldn't be the one to explain it. Let Jungkook do it. Yin was still silent, but now she was clearly curious. She turned to look toward Jungkook and was startled to see that he had been watching her the entire time. Meanwhile, without Yin knowing, Yuju quietly pulled out her phone and sent a message to Jungkook. After class ended, students began pouring out of the room. Yin walked slowly through the campus hallway, holding her bag while her mind was still a mess. But before she could even reach the faculty gates, a very familiar voice called out to her once again. Yin. Her steps froze. Her breath immediately felt heavier. She turned, and sure enough, Jungkook was walking briskly toward her, his gaze sharp yet nervous. Not far from them, Yuju stood hugging her book. Her eyes shifted from Jungkook to Yin, then she gave a small knowing smile before turning around and heading home without a word. Jungkook finally reached Yin. I need to talk to you, he said directly, no small talk. Yin glanced at him briefly before looking away. Just say it here, she murmured, clearly uncomfortable being seen by others. But Jungkook shook his head. No, I want us to talk somewhere else, somewhere quieter. Yin let out a sigh, hesitating for a moment, but Jungkook's gaze was so serious, and for some reason, her heart softened in the end. Inside a quiet corner of a cafe near campus, they chose to sit in a slightly secluded spot. Jungkook ordered 2 simple drinks, while Yin sat in silence, head down, waiting. After the drinks arrived and there were no more distractions, Jungkook finally spoke. Now, can you be honest with me? Yin slowly lifted her gaze to look at Jungkook sitting across from her. At first, I didn't understand why you suddenly changed, Jungkook continued. You started distancing yourself, and I don't know what I did wrong. Silence fell. Yin bit her lower lip, chest tightening. She didn't know where to start. Jungkook looked at her intently. If I did something wrong, just tell me, but don't do this, Yin. Don't stay silent. His voice was sincere, and that was what started to break down Yin's defenses. Wasn't it you who ignored me first? Yin finally asked. Me? Ignored you? When? Jungkook looked genuinely confused. When you started getting close to Yuju, you changed. You weren't as warm with me anymore. Yin spoke while looking down. Jungkook fell silent for a moment before giving a small, soft smile. He looked at Yin gently. I'm sorry if you felt that way. Lately, I've just been more nervous around you. He paused briefly, then added, and actually, there's something I need to tell you. About Yuju. Yin straightened, slightly anxious. What is it? Yuju is going to be my sister-in-law. Yin's eyes widened. What? Jungkook nodded slowly. Yeah, she was arranged to marry my older brother, Jungwoo, 3 months ago. That was truly shocking. Yin stared at Jungkook, trying to process the information quickly. Seriously? She whispered in disbelief. Seriously, Jungkook confirmed with another nod. The problem is, my brother is too cold. He's not the type to open up easily, especially in relationships. And Yuju, she's really trying hard to win his heart. So lately, she's been asking me a lot about him. Yin stayed quiet. Suddenly, all the puzzle pieces in her head began to fit together. Jungkook and Yuju's closeness, her questions, their interactions. It all made sense now. Maybe that's why you misunderstood, Jungkook added gently. Yin stared at the table between them, her feelings mixed. But one thing still bothered her. But why are you telling me all this? She asked, her voice soft but serious. Jungkook tensed slightly. He took a deep breath, eyes fixed on Yin, though his fingers nervously fiddled with the edge of his glass. I'm explaining because you're important to me, he muttered, looking down briefly. And because I've been wanting to tell you something for a while. Yin looked at him, waiting. Jungkook now looked truly nervous, even avoiding direct eye contact. Not long after Yuju got engaged to my brother, I asked her about you. You did? Yin could barely believe it. Jungkook nodded. At first, I was just curious. Maybe you could say interested. I didn't really know you. But in class, I always glanced at you. Without realizing it, Yin's face began to warm. Yuju was the one who told me I should try getting closer to you. But I'm not the type to approach girls easily. I don't have many female friends. I'm only close to Yuju because our families already meet up for dinners. So back then, I didn't know where to start. And Yuju, she was the only person I thought could help me understand you. Then we ended up in the same group project, and that made it easier to get closer. Jungkook finally dared to look at Yin again. But the closer we got, the more real my feelings became, and that just made me even more nervous. Yin still didn't move. Jungkook's words felt too sudden, too honest, and too real. At first, I thought you'd never like someone like me, Jungkook continued in a softer voice. But after that group project, we started getting closer, and I didn't know if we were just friends or if I could hope for more. I'm sorry, I've never liked anyone before, so I'm not good at things like this. And now, you think I like you? Yin asked, her tone more like a challenge, though her eyes couldn't hide her nervousness. Jungkook gave a small smile. I didn't say that, but I hope so. Silence. What if I said, maybe I do? Yin finally whispered. What would you do? Jungkook went quiet, but a smile slowly bloomed on his face. Then I'd say, I'd be really happy, he said with shining eyes. And if that's true, I want us to be together. Yin finally smiled, not expecting Jungkook to be so awkward around girls, but his next sentence made her heart race. Yin, would you be my girlfriend? He asked, his face now serious. Yin smiled but remained silent for a moment. For some reason, she was enjoying this moment, watching Jungkook nervously confessing his feelings. But seeing her remain silent, Jungkook began to look worried. If you agree to be my girlfriend, I want a serious relationship, Jungkook said, trying to hold back a smile. I hope we'll get married someday. That means Yuju would be your sister-in-law. You two are already close, right? You'd be even closer when we're married. Hearing that, Yin let out a soft laugh. Are you trying to bribe me? Jungkook chuckled too. Of course, I'm hoping you won't reject my feelings. Yin smiled, her face growing redder. Finally, she nodded. Alright, I'll be your girlfriend, Jungkook. Upon hearing that, Jungkook immediately took both of Yin's hands and kissed them. Thank you, Yin.